I'm Jim Grismer, Professor and Dean Emeritus at the University of Denver. Welcome to Engaging Ideas, where we bring information and ideas from the Academy to the community to help think about real-world questions. Today we're going to look at the changing world of cable television, a subject that affects not only the industry, but all of us as consumers. Technological innovations resulting in new delivery methods have increased competition and are disrupting cable, satellite, and other TV providers. Where the changing environment has forced cable providers to adopt new strategies, it also provides customers with new opportunities. Joining me at the Crimson Table is Professor Ron Rizzuto of the University of Denver's Daniels College of Business. Professor Rizzuto is one of the nation's leading experts on business and financial aspects of the cable television industry. Over the years, Dr. Rizzuto has conducted extensive research on various aspects of telecommunications and consulted widely with the cable industry. I think you'll find his perspective on the changing nature of cable industry to be interesting and relevant to daily life. So let's begin. Professor Rizzuto, thank you for joining me.
Well, thank you for inviting me, Jim.
Maybe a good way to start this is to understand just what the cable television industry involves. What is it composed of?
Okay. The cable television industry is a lot of things, but I'll narrow it to start with to the video part of the business, where this is where we as consumers get our video programming from a cable company. And that's kind of the narrow view cable, because now we have a lot of choices in terms of the traditional players being the telephone companies like CenturyLink offers video, and then we have the satellite companies like Dish Networks and DirecTV.
That's important because we're not just talking about strictly cable in the literal sense. So let's go a little bit further. So could you describe the key elements then within that industry?
They are the three elements that you think about when you think about the broad cable industry would be the distributors. These would be the cable companies, the satellite companies, the telephone companies that sell video. They're the distributors, the traditional distributors. Then you have the content providers, the programmers like the CNN, the HBO that have the content that is distributed. And then you have the vendors, the equipment vendors, particularly the Arises, the Ciscos that provide the technology and the equipment.
When we think about the distributors, the cable companies, satellite companies, and so on, over the years, these have been very successful businesses. From a business point of view, what do you think are the key elements that have allowed these companies to be successful historically?
Well, I think the two that I would focus on would be sort of the innovation and the entrepreneurship, of the industry. People have had problems, they've solved them, and then they have found business niche. When it comes to the broad video business, they have been successful because they had a product and there wasn't a lot of competition initially, and there were barriers to entry, so they could be successful, but obviously that has changed over time.
And the barriers would include the capital cost, for example.
The capital cost, there used to be the technology barrier, because if you wanted video, cable was the only way you could get it. And then there were legislative regulatory barriers, and a lot of that has gone by the wayside.
I know that cable companies also had to get franchises, for example, from local municipalities and areas that they were serving.
That's right, and that was, you know, early on it was a barrier because the franchises were exclusive, so you only had one provider in Denver when it came to cable, but there again, that has changed.
Right, that strikes me as a really significant change. Also, my impression is that the cable industry was successful in essentially removing or reducing the regulatory environment, the barriers, the rules of operation at the national level. Is that accurate?
You're right. They removed a lot of the barriers along the way, and then as new technology is developed, you know, there have been, with the help of Congress and the FCC, some other barriers have been helped. That's right. They have been removed and added, I guess.
So let's talk a little bit about the wonderful success of the industry for many years, but times are a-changing. Can you begin to share with us some of the things that are changing in the environment of the industry?
Well, I'll break it into two parts, Jim.
Okay.
One is to look at the change that occurred from the mid-90s to, you know, mid-2000s.
Okay.
Because there you had the change in technology, change in legislation. On the video side, in mid-90s, cable had 93% of the market share on the multi-channel video homes. But in 2015, they only have 53%. And so that backdrop, you have now the competitors of the satellite companies and the telco companies who offer video. So that has changed. But what we think about today is the change that's going in the last, you know, 8 to 10 years.
Mm-hmm. And when you say, I want to just focus on this, you said at previously they had 93% of the market?
They had 93% of the multi-channel video homes.
Okay,
So
and now that's 53%.
It's 53%, right.
It's a huge change.
Huge change. Again, we'll delineate between homes and customers, but as we get into the new changes, we can delineate that a little bit more.
Okay. Well, let's move into that area and let's talk about some of the other elements that are changing.
Okay. Again, the thing that has changed, and you see this the last 5 years, the last 10 years in particular, you've seen this technological change in the industry, and the most significant aspect of the technological change is the advent of broadband connectivity. So high-speed data, whether it's fixed line, high-speed data access, or wireline or wireless access. So that's a significant change that's helped change the landscape. You've had another change in terms of better quality video, online video, and then a reduction in improvement in quality of production costs.
So these changes obviously have reshaped the environment. Talk to us a little bit about the nature of the competition then that has come up with those, with those changes.
Again, a significant change that you have with this is a change in viewing patterns. So the technology causes a change with consumer behavior, and then that helps with the competitive landscape. But now consumers can get video, and they don't need to go to a traditional supplier for it. So they can get video. They don't have to go to Comcast or CenturyLink or to Dish Network. They can get it online, and that's part of this technological change.
And so when people refer to over-the-top services and that, is that the kind of thing that we're talking about?
That's right. The over-the-top services are this idea that you can get video product without having to go to a traditional provider for it. You can use your broadband connection to access the product lots of different ways.
Okay. Ron, I'm interested in this idea of over the top. Can you delve into that just a little bit more?
Sure. Over the top, as you think about over the top TV, you would have what we might call the subscription video on demand. One example of that would be Netflix, where you subscribe, you get movies, access to movies. Another example of subscription video on demand would be HBO Now, where you're subscribing to HBO, but you're doing that directly with HBO. And then in addition to that category of over the top, you have these virtual service providers, a company like Sling TV, where you're getting access to a on-demand library, but also access to the actual channel that they have on their linear TV service.
So as you said, I no longer have to buy this big package with 300 channels, 10 of which I watch.
Right.
I can really kind of pick and choose.
Exactly. And there are ways to pick and choose using different technologies and providers.
Great. And you indicated that the quality of these alternative products has also improved.
Quality of the products and hence the quality of the video. You would be, if you think about online video, say, well, I don't want to watch TV on my PC, and I would want clear, crystal clear broadcast quality. I don't want a grainy picture. Right. I mean, all of that, the technology has allowed that.
And so can you help, there's this myriad of suppliers of one thing or another out there. Can you categorize them a little bit and help us understand that?
Sure. If you look at the suppliers, the new suppliers are these non-traditional video suppliers. Okay. You have a group that we might characterize as the subscription on-demand companies, like okay. Netflix would be a prime example, okay. or Amazon Prime. They're a provider where you're getting access to a library of content and you can choose from that content. But the on-demand providers or the subscription on-demand services, another one in that category would be HBO Go. Okay. HBO Go, where you're going directly to HBO to get the product. So it's a on-demand delivered via subscription or on-demand delivered directly from a content provider.
And if I can get some of those services on my mobile device, then my source of data need not be the hardwire internet to my home and my Wi-Fi at home. I can be getting it through the cellular data service as well. Is that correct?
Well, you can. I mean, you can get video through your your wireless phone carrier. You can get it through your broadband connection. Right. So there are lots of sources to that.
And one of the things we've heard recently is that Disney, for example, was thinking about moving not just from content creation, but into actual delivery. So it seems like the bag is being shaken here and things are exactly. Jumbled up.
That's right. So if you want to watch ESPN, you can have a subscription with Disney and get it delivered via your broadband connection, or you can subscribe to Dish or Comcast and get it that way. So the bag is really being shaken.
It's a dizzying array.
Okay.
So what are the traditional providers, the cable companies, doing? It's like the world's turned upside down here. How are they? What's their strategy? How are they dealing with this?
Well, in there, one of the things you see with the shift in consumer viewing, where people don't watch, or we don't have to watch TV when it's being delivered. We don't have to watch Game of Thrones when it's on.
Right.
So we have time shifted. So it's created this need for the cable companies to provide TV everywhere. So I want it on my TV, I want it on my laptop, I want it on my phone. So one of the strategies is provide TV everywhere. One subscription, you get it access to all the devices. Another one would be a skinny bundle. Rather than subscribe to Comcast and get 300 channels and you only watch 10, right. There you get a smaller bundle of services. Another strategy that cable companies have is that because they also provide the broadband connection, you know, you can subscribe to broadband with Comcast, and then they might add a video product to that. So you can get HBO or Stars. So they can really narrow the bundle, if you will, but they tag it on to the high-speed data. And then another strategy is the cable company can also provide an over-the-top service. So Comcast can provide a service equivalent to Netflix to you, and so you don't need to be a Comcast subscriber other than having the high-speed data and then subscribe to the over-the-top service. So there are lots of alternatives and things that companies need to do or could do.
When we talk about dramatic change, this is dramatic change.
Exactly.
What are we seeing in terms of the impact of this on consumers?
Well, I think one of the first impacts is confusion. You know, who's on first? You know, what is all this stuff? You know, you move to a new home and you say, well, okay, I'll call my phone company, I'll call my cable company, and you know, it's not like that anymore. So to consumers would be confused. The other thing is it opens up the opportunity for more choice. So you don't just have to go to your local satellite company or your cable company to get product. And then in addition to that, there are a lot of varieties of product that you can get. So, I mean, you might say, I want to watch live sports and I want to watch movies. So I'll sign up for my high-speed data connection, I'll sign up for Netflix, and then I'll look to see, is there a sports-only package that I can get? So there's going to be more choice for consumers, but it's going to take more time, because then you have to pay attention to what you're interested in and what's out there. And then the other thing is it's most likely to lead to lower costs. So it's a nice opportunity for consumers.
But you've got to find your way through it.
Exactly, exactly.
Nobody has a crystal ball, Ron, but as you look at these changes and you study them pretty closely, where do you have a sense of where you think this might be going, what the future might look like a little bit?
Well, I'll narrow it a little bit and then we'll broaden it. But
okay.
in terms of where it's gone for the cable companies, you know, the cable companies is obviously they're going to continue to compete in the video space, but they also have, you know, the broadband connection, they provide that service as well. And so they have another revenue stream and they have other services that they can provide into the home, like home security, Comcast now and other companies, Charter, moving into mobile phone. So there are other products on the consumer side. In addition, there are products on the commercial side. So
at one level, they're competing with each other, but I imagine there's some partnering that's going on as well.
Exactly, exactly. And you know, in terms of the broader industry, I think for the traditional providers, the satellite, the cable, and the telephone companies, it's a rich environment for innovation and fast change.
And I would assume, but I don't know, that for the cable companies or the satellite companies, that providing internet service is still a pretty strong business, even if the video service is not. What's going on in that area?
Exactly. In 2014, for the industry, the cable industry has more high-speed data broadband connections than they do video connections. So some of the companies refer to themselves as broadband companies rather than video companies. So that becomes a key part, but it underscores the change of the industry.
And from although this will probably change, but from a revenue point of view, where's the source of the revenue at this point for the cable companies?
They're still 80% of the revenue comes from residential. 20% comes from, you know, business, commercial.
Okay.
But on the 80%, what you're seeing is the video part is shrinking and the data part increasing. So you'll
Okay.
see that continue going forward.
Going forward. Other crystal ball observations in terms of where the industry is going?
Well, I mean, there'll be, you know, a shakeout at some point. You know, some over-the-top providers will find a home. Others will find that there's not a big enough niche, or there's not a big enough profitable niche. And then the cable companies will, I think, and all the companies will look and do a better job of segmenting the marketplace out there.
Ron, you and I are both professors in the business school, so we think about these things a lot. As you have a unique vantage point, having watched the cable industry for many years and watched it very closely. As a kind of a case study from a business perspective, how do you view this change that you've seen from a nascent industry only 2 or 3 generations ago to a huge industry and now one in turmoil? From a business perspective, what's your own takeaway with that?
Well, I think it underscores, you know, if you look at what are the skill sets that you need. Okay. I mean, what you need is to sort of be entrepreneurial, to be creative and agile, because things are going to change, and you see that characteristic of the industry. And it also, the speed of change continues to accelerate. So I think if you're looking at a career choice, if you're entrepreneurial and you're innovative and you like change, it's a great place to be. And I think it's important, you know, as we look forward, you know, the industry is to look at an industry that we don't handicap with a lot of regulatory infrastructure or requirements, so we allow the market to be the regulator rather than to provide arbitrary restrictions on an industry.
For our viewers, what would be the sort of key takeaways? You've gone through this in a wonderful way. What do you consider to be the kind of bottom line things that viewers might want to take away?
Well, again, just orientation to the industry. You know, okay. The traditional video providers are cable, satellite, and the telephone companies. Mm-hmm. But that market is changing because of the technology, so you have a lot of new providers, or what we might characterize are over-the-top providers. The important takeaway for consumers is this is going to create a lot of opportunity, some confusion, opportunity, and better choice for you. And, you know, for the industry, again, it underscores the need to continue to innovate and find solutions to an ever-changing problem.
What a dynamic kind of environment. Well, my sincere thanks to Professor Ron Rizzuto for taking the time to share his insights, ideas about the changing nature of the cable television industry. I hope you'll join us in the future as we bring more engaging ideas from the Academy to the community. I'm Jim Grismer. Thank you for watching.